What's your opinion on the N-word in movies like Django? It's fine. I don't if you want to have a movie about race politics in like the 1800s, don't you kind of have to have the N-word in it? Otherwise, I mean, if you're trying to go for like a serious movie in the 1800s that deals with race issues, it feels like it was, kind of a kind of a frequently used term. You know what I mean? Uh, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying every like kid cowboy story, got to have that, but besides, Django's a pretty anti-racist movie, isn't it? I mean, shit. I like Django a lot. I like that over the top. I feel like in a lot of ways, Clinton Tarantino gets us the closest that we can. I feel like he gets us really close to like not the aesthetic, but the feeling that you get when watching anime. That like bombastic. Did I say Clinton? Quentin, sorry. Um, yeah, the Clintons have, their roots everywhere. I think he gets us as close, not to the aesthetic, but the bombast of anime. You know what I mean? Where everything is larger than life and like stupidly over the top. You know what I mean, right? Well, Kill Bill is literally just anime. Yeah, of course. But even the rest of the stuff. I mean, even what was it? The Hateful Eight. Nobody talks about the Hateful Eight, but I don't know. Also, there's a lot of feet. Yeah, a lot of fetish bait, just like an anime. It all tracks. It all fits. Is the Nashville debate online anywhere? Yes, on my YouTube channel. um. Anyway, I liked it. Actually, I think what's interesting is I think there's a lot of Didn't he make the fish monster fucker movie? No, that was Guillermo del Toro. Don't get on my case for every mispronunciation, guys. Guillermo del Toro. Thank you. Who's, by the way, an amazing filmmaker. Yeah, amazing filmmaker. Oh, but anyway, yeah, I think that like Django's race politics are really interesting, right? Like, okay, spoilers for like a 12-year-old movie. I don't remember. Spoilers for a movie that's decently old at this point, um, with its race politics, right? So you have a story where Django was 2012. Okay, 9 years old. Yeah. You have a story where you have a slave, and he's essentially freed by like a sympathetic white man, uh, you know, and that's kind of like an old trope in movies of this era, where there's like the good white and that the narrative is framed from their perspective. But this movie doesn't really do that. You know what I mean? Because the white savior gets fridged. He dies. I mean, he's awesome and everything. And don't get me wrong. I forget the character's name, but I mean, I love him. He's fantastic. Um, but yeah, he dies, and a lot of it is just about like Django's revenge. And Dr. Schultz, thank you, Dr. Schultz. Um, yes, Christopher Waltz is an awesome actor. Yeah, so lovable. You forgot his name. I haven't seen the movie in years. Sorry. He wasn't a white savior. He only freed him to catch a bounty. Now, well, compared to like every other white person in the story, Dr. Schultz was way the fuck less racist. Dr. Schultz was like radically not racist in the context of like American racial politics circa like 1850 or whatever. He wasn't just I think slavery is immoral. He was fully like, yeah, I'm an abolitionist. You're as much of a human being as I am. This is all a distasteful trade. I will train you in my work. It was very, very, very not racist. Anyway, I mean they fight the Klan and everything, and the Klan are like a bunch of fucking buffoons. God, that scene where they bring the hoods and the eyes are misshaped and shit. Fuck, man, that movie is so fucking funny. But anyway, and Dr. Schultz dies eventually because Dr. Schultz has an ego on him, and that gets him killed. And then it's a whole revenge thing for Django. And I've actually seen a lot of like 50-50 on this. You know what I mean? Because some people say that the fact that Django's the expression of his will kind of played out like a revenge fantasy. Some people say that this is like a way of aesthetically capturing and playing off of the fear of retaliation. The idea that like if you give black people the guns, they're going to take it all out in the white people. Now, of course, the white people that Django was killing were literal slave traders, and people trying to kill him and enslave his wife. So it's not like he was just randomly killing random white people. But some people say that like relegating his role to to that of like like a revenge bot towards the end was reductive. And then I've seen other people say that um that's actually sick, you know? Is it not appealing to violent fantasies? Well, that's a Tarantino film. I mean, that's going to be any Tarantino film. Um and also Samuel L. Jackson's character, I've seen people get like controversial over that as well. Because it's kind of revealed more towards the end of the film that like the real evil on the plantation isn't actually the white plantation owner. It's actually the what's his name, so I don't use the term. I don't want to get canceled again. Come on, what's the actual character's name? Is it Ben? I don't think it was Tom, folks. I don't think they were that on the nose. Look, it was a black slave, a house slave who was basically sort of the not the instigator. He was the arbiter of the relation. Stephen, gotcha. He was the arbiter of the the contrast in power between the slave owner and the, you know what I mean? There are so many terms for this type of person that I can't say out loud. If only I was black. Anyway, some people say that it's like fucked up that after all that white supremacy bullshit, the big villain at the end would be like a black dude, you know? Um, and was he the villain? Well, he kind of was, right? Because he wasn't really portrayed sympathetically. It wasn't like they did this big old backstory where he was the way he was only because of like decades of abuse and trauma, which of course, to be fair, he probably was, but it's pretty clear. I mean, he was a sellout, you know? That's the ultimate point, right? That the greatest evil aren't like the other group, it's the people within your own group who sell you out because it gives them preferential treatment under the oppressive system. It's one of the reasons why, and this is true by the way, a lot of black people in America hate, like turncoat black people more than they hate white people when it comes to racial oppression, you know? Like the only thing they hate more than racist white people are black people who suck up to racist white people. That's a real thing. Happens in the trans community too. Take a look at how trans people talk about Blair White, you know? They hate Blair White more than they hate transphobic cis people. It's like, you were so close and then you like turned your back on you had the power to do something, but then you used it just to claw your way up to some modicum of acceptance, more so than you would have gotten otherwise. Anyway, some people said that wasn't a white person's story to tell. Like, to have a story where the ultimate villain is kind of like a representative of that dynamic. Like, to have a white guy do all that is, I don't know. It's interesting stuff, at least. A lot of people were also mad that Django didn't get to kill Calvin Candy at the end, too. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. That don't make me mad, at least. I don't think that was a I don't think that was a narrative oversight, you know what I mean? I think that Django racked up plenty of dead white people at the end of that film. I don't think he was lacking too much. Candy was like the most overrated villain. Well, I don't think he was kind of like the fake villain, wasn't he? I mean, I don't think he was the real he was too, what's the term, faffy? Like he was too wrapped up in like the petty image of his aristocratic station to be like the kind of contemptible villain that you got from Stephen, you know? It was like a different vibe with him. Yeah. Yeah, he was the voice, not the hand. Now, of course, in reality, he actually did have the power there. Stephen was just a voice in his ear, but that was sort of the vibe given from the film. The stupidest controversy was how many times they said the N-word in that movie, because I really do not think anyone could come away from watching Django thinking, that was pretty racist and anti-black because they said the N-word. That's not, if that's the thing you're coming away from watching, if you come away from that movie and that's the impression that you have, then I think you missed a few themes, narrative points, plot structure. I think you missed, yeah. Yeah, a little bit of a smooth brain take, you know. Wouldn't it be controversial if they didn't say the N-word? I kind of think, don't you think it would have been a little weirder if they didn't, right? Like they've got a whole story about like the brutal racial oppression of like the mid, 19th century, and it's like they want to whitewash that by never saying the N-word. Like the N-word optically is like the purest expression of anti-black racism, But in reality, in the 1850s, that would have been like the least of it. I think black people probably would have minded the slavery thing a little more, right? Like that's so to show the slavery and to have the whole story be about the slavery, but then to pussy out when it comes to saying the N word, it's like that seems like you're trying to like whitewash it a bit for a white audience. That I think that's the criticism you would have gotten too, you know? Like, oh, you're just trying to make this more digestible to white people, you know? White people who are okay seeing black bodies getting enslaved, but not okay with hearing the N word because it reminds them of the kind of racism they might hear from their grandpa when they go home for the holidays. You know what I mean? I think that's what would have been said. And honest to God, I think I agree with that criticism if they hadn't said the N word. What do you think about the N word in Pulp Fiction? I'm going to be 100 with you. It's been so long since I've seen Pulp Fiction. Um, I honestly uh, I honestly don't remember how it was used. I know it's a Tarantino film, so I'm sure it was used liberally, but yeah, it's been a long time. Legit question, why do people sometimes refer to black people as black bodies? I shouldn't do it. It's a stupid, like, corruption of an academic term. The academic argument for using the term black and brown bodies was a way of calling attention to the dehumanization and the commodification of like POC lives with regards to not just the slave trade, but a whole bunch of social and economic systems that relegated them down basically to like their, you know, their labor worth. And some more stuff than that too. It has also to do with like the commodification of beauty and stuff like that. But the problem is that like outside of the academic context in which that term was invented, it does sound kind of weird. So yeah, it's not something I'm preferential to. It just kind of slipped out there a little. You know how it is. Remember the Samuel L. Jackson movie interview about the use of the N word? Yeah, where he said like told the white person to use the N word or to call him the N word. Was it call him the N word or say the N word? Either way, just say it. Just say it. Gotcha. I mean, he would in the context of the movie would have had to say it to him probably. You know. What's the maximum amount of times the N word could be said in a movie until it comes off as gratuitous, even if it's justified in the historical context? Well, if I remember correctly, Django uses it over 100 times. So whatever the maximum number is, it's it's got to be up there, right? Um, exactly 134. It was a large number of times. Also, like, have you ever been on pull? Racists use the N word pretty often, you know? I feel like if you went to an actual Klan rally with a microphone and just recorded for a bit, you'd be able to beat Django in about 5 minutes with how often these people run off on it, you know? I don't know, like, what level does it become gratuity when real life racists are that obsessive with using the N word? You know, they say it just to feel cool these days, right? I mean, at least back in the 1850s, pretty much everyone used the N word. So, like, there wasn't some special social distinction for using it. But nowadays, like, racists are literally, they say it and they're like, ooh, you know, like a little kid saying a swear word when their mom's not around. You know what I mean? Seriously, those are the vibes. It's wacky, wacky stuff.